we decided to dig up a song to help bring the sunshine out. We have had some sun. It's been a good reminder. I think everybody in this room will remember this one. I can see clearly now the rain is gone.
I can see all obstacles.
I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. I can make it now, the pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is the rainbow I've been waiting for. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. Two heads are better than one. So, hillbilly song for you. And I know you know this one too. Even Mark knows this one. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All around the world, all around the world, we're gonna let it shine, yeah. All around the world, we're gonna let it shine. All around the world, we're gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All right, let's hear you shine now. Let
listen to that all night.
Thank you. Oh,
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I don't see anybody here for the first time, so I guess everybody will hear about the Red Heart anyway in a few minutes. And we don't do so just happen here by accident, so it takes a lot of planning. Our speaker today is Doug Beneke, with Sally Spirit doing the music, and Mary Ellen and Laura doing the the good stuff. Yes, the hospitality, and of course Debbie will be doing our chaplain for the day. So if you have prayers or things to be grateful for, and then she will be at the back table after service. And then, of course, our live streaming couldn't get done without Mark being here, and we're glad he's back from San Diego, taking a week off for his birthday. And then I'm your platform assistant, Nora. And so, now we will have a heart song.
I know you all have a songbook, but I've never seen that songbook. You may know this one. If not, it's very repetitive. I'll teach it to you. Does anybody recognize that?
Yeah, we know that.
Yay! Okay. So everyone is just going to feel free to sing out beautifully, freely, no inhibitions. We're all friends here. No one's going to laugh at you, right? Just be joyful together.
She's going to laugh at me later on the
Well,
drum.
that's my job. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. I want to love you more. I want to love you more. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. The greatest thing in all my life is serving you. The greatest thing in all my life is serving you. I want to serve you more. I want to serve you more. The greatest thing in all my life is serving you.
my next life, I'm going to have her voice.
You might be sorry you said that.
Well, not like I've never been sorry for anything I've said. Been there, done that. So, if you are new today to Unity of Bremerton or watching for the first time online, we welcome you in the spirit of love. We want you to know that no matter where you are on your journey of faith, you are always welcome here. We know that the world is a better place when we are willing to share our hearts. We give you this red heart as a symbol of the steadfast spirit that lives within each of us, and we ask you to carry this symbol as a member of the Red Heart Fellowship. Let it be a reminder that the love of God is always with you and to share your heart wherever you go. The red heart is a symbol of the fellowship in the world. It can spread love one heart at a time. Let this movement start here. And for those of you that are visiting or are watching for the first time online, we'd like you to watch several times or regularly to get a different feel for the different speakers that we have every week, and for some variety. And for our Unity happenings, next week on the 31st will be the 12 Hours Strength with musician David Duvall, who hasn't been here for a while. And then in 2 weeks, Michael Bogart will be the speaker with Sally and Jamie doing the music. Then we have our Course in Miracles every Thursday from 7 to 8 here. And if you have any questions about that, you can talk to Jamie or Debbie Clay. They both attend regularly, and we'll be glad to share more on that if you're interested. And so now it's time for the lighting of our Christ candle, which represents the divine light within each of us. Together with our mission statement.
We are a welcoming community supporting our mutual quest for spiritual truth.
And our invocation.
There is one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life. God the good, omnipotent.
And so now it's time for handshakes and hugs, and let's keep it sort of brief because we have social time afterwards. I know, we're starting to come in.
Morning, Gerald.
The color for today?
Hi, Katie. I was trying to wait and see.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Cindy. Say hi to Cindy.
Hi, Cindy.
Say hi to Cindy.
Hi, Cindy.
Oh,
Yeah. Say hi to Cindy.
Hi, Cindy. Hi, Cindy.
Please stay out of trouble.
Stay out of trouble.
To come down where we ought to be, and when
want to yell, hee-haw. Yowza. Okay. Today's daily word is assurance. All things are possible through the ageless omnipotence of my sacred self. The Apostle Paul frequently wrote of the pain and suffering he endured in the course of his missionary travels. He described his difficulties not as complaints, but to emphasize his certainty that the ultimate glory of Christ's mind is infinitely greater than mortal limitations. I consider that the suffering of this present time, he wrote in Romans 8:18, are not worth comparing with the glory about to be revealed to us. That same spiritual certainty moves me through my day. My intentions may not be revealed. My body and mind may seem intent on emphasizing obstacles and fears. Still, I move gratefully forward, knowing that nothing can affect the spiritual power that is my true identity. And I have to add here, because my mom often said this one, nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. Just love that.
Amen.
Love that. Yeah. Amen. and from Romans 8:18 again, I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory about to reveal to us. And today, all things are possible through the ageless omnipotence of my sacred self. God bless us.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to come be with you today and just to be anywhere where we are intentionally reminding ourselves what it's really all about. Thank you. That was just so sweet and so purposeful. Okay, this is, I think we might have done this before, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, we have.
You know
Oh,
this
and you
one.
guys know it.
Oh, that's really
Excellent.
cool, because very few groups actually know this one. So I love it. It's helpful.
I hope we know it the same way you know it.
Probably close enough.
I send my love over the ocean. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my peace over the ocean. I send my peace over the sea. I send my peace into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my joy over the ocean. I send my joy over the sea. I send my joy into the heavens, and it returns to me. And it returns to me.
Where are you going?
You mean this isn't your solo?
Right,
Show
well,
off a piece?
I hope it would be, but I think there's actually something else we're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's true. As I said, two heads are better than one. Appalachian spiritual tradition, where people really boiled down stuff to be real direct and real pure as far as, their beliefs. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with balm of Gilead. It's a medicine, but it also came to them to represent Jesus. There it is, it's a balm for your healing. So they used to sing this. There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to ease the weary soul. There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to ease the weary soul. Sometimes I feel discouraged, as if my life's in vain. But then the Holy Spirit fills my heart again. There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to ease the weary soul. To ease the weary soul. To ease the weary soul.
And now, our wonderful speaker, Doug. Don't go backwards.
That's what Sal says to me a lot. Actually, what we would like to do is offer you guys a brief period of meditation and inward reflection before I speak. And I'm going to make noise here, Mark. I'm sorry, this is at the wrong angle. Thank you. It's not just changes like that.
No, he had it right when he said angle, not height. He didn't
Thank
think
you.
about that.
See, I've taught him a few things over the years.
So, just give us some of that beautiful sound, honey. Let us go ahead and allow each breath to be a reminder of our connection with Spirit. So that breath, by cleansing breath, we feel that sense of renewal. Let that springtime spirit flow into each of us as we shed the weight of the past winter and of any issues that we may have been carrying. Poof, they're gone. Breath by breath, we are renewing our connection with Spirit, with Christ, with God's love. We'll take some time, perhaps with music continuing, to just feel that connection, breath by breath, each breath like a prayer. Divine indwelling Spirit, may today be a gift to our soul's journeys. May we open ourselves to this gift. May we spread love in this world. Amen. So, it's a great privilege to be with you. One of my true heroes, Albert Schweitzer, took a degree in philosophy but said he had to go on and take his doctorate in theology because he wanted to never give up that privilege of addressing life's deepest questions with a congregation Sunday by Sunday. We're starting this talk in an unusual place. We're talking briefly about John Callahan, who was a cartoonist who lived in Portland, Oregon. He's now deceased. But you may have seen his work in the Pacific Northwest magazine. Came out every week along with the Times and PI Sunday edition for a couple of decades. His work was rather dark and strange, but he came from an unusual place. He was a quadriplegic from the age of 21 and made his cartoons by holding a pencil in his teeth. And Mr. Callahan wrote about his life in a set of cartoons that I sadly have lost, titled The Lighter Side of Being Paralyzed for Life. In one of the very last panels in this set, Callahan says something like, after a while, life got back to normal. And the cartoon shows him barreling down the sidewalk in his wheelchair, shouting, "Out of my way, you son of a gun, I'm a busy man!" Except he didn't say gun. This talk today is titled Team Kindness. And there is a problem with joining Team Kindness that this cartoon speaks to. There's a problem with my joining the team anyway. For all listening, you will know if the shoe fits or not. It's not that I play inconsistently off the bench for Team Kindness because I'm not a very good player, though there are quite a few deficits in my game. It's not that I didn't fill out the right forms. or have the proper equipment to join Team Kindness. This team will take us as we are. The problem is with me and my approach, because instead of suiting up every day for Team Kindness, far too often I find that I'm hurtling down the sidewalk or the freeway, shouting, "Out of my way, USOB, I'm a busy man." I have an agenda, and being kind to others is not always on it. It's like that bumper sticker you may have seen. "I can only be nice to one person a day. Today is not your day." Tomorrow doesn't look good either. I don't want to admit it, but a lot of days, if you observed me, you might think I lived by that bumper sticker. You would see me playing on team selfishness, team self-importance, team self-pity, or team greed. Each of these teams are actively recruiting players just as much as Team Kindness. Sometimes they offer what looks like a better contract, maybe even a signing bonus. In the end, though, I don't really think we want to sign their contract. Still, we get to choose how to play the game and whose team we'll be on. I found myself, in preparing for today's talk, reflecting back on lessons I had supposedly learned about 30-odd years ago, and they have been odd, in the era of Gerald Jampolsky, who wrote that 80s bestseller, Love is Letting Go of Fear. I see some nods of recognition. What drives the agenda, the "out of my way, I'm a busy man" voice in the head? Is it not fear? Fear that I won't get my way, fear that I won't succeed, fear that someone else will get in front of me in line for all the rewards I want and have convinced myself that I deserve. I also thought about the 1980s when the idea for this talk was germinating. Because of A Course in Miracles, I was exposed to that in the 80s. I have to be honest, I didn't study A Course in Miracles. Instead, I was contracted to be the musician in front of a large group of people who studied A Course in Miracles every Wednesday night at Unity of Seattle. And I got to do just a little warm-up gig. And after that, I would just hang out and fool around. But I did absorb one or two lessons, and maybe they were what I needed to hear, and perhaps still hope to live by. Because with this talk coming together, I remembered A Course in Miracles lesson, give up attack thoughts. The Course has a teaching that let me stick with myself. You can apply this to yourself if it fits, that I perceive the world as attacking me, and I believe I need to attack it back. This way of seeing the world is a way for me to create this hostile universe that I then have to defend myself against. In order to do that, I probably have to join Team Vengeance, Team Aggressiveness, Team Get Out of My Way. It is an unbeautiful and untrue way to live. We know it will not really make us happy. Some of us, at least some of the time, continue, though, to operate from this selfishness and this fear. I don't mean you people, I mean other people out there. But this is the reason we come together, is it not? To be reminded of what heaven can feel like. To remember the invitation to try out for Team Kindness. Spiritual teachers always urge us to join Team Kindness. The Dalai Lama said 10 years ago in 2009, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. Jesus told us in one of his most famous teachings that whatever you have done for the least of my brothers and sisters, you have done for me. So I think we are all here with that common ambition to join Team Kindness. I have no doubt that many of you, perhaps all of you, suit up in the Team Kindness uniform much more than I do, and are perhaps even surprised to see me here in the locker room today. But with the ambition of earning a spot in the rotation, I want to give a bit of a rousing halftime talk so that we cannot win the game in the second half, but can perhaps play the right way. So I'm going to tell you 3 stories that I found, all true tales from many great players who have worn the Team Kindness jersey. A woman named Amanda, a writer living in Brooklyn, published a story last year in the Washington Post. When Amanda's inexpensive bike was stolen, it was a major setback. She and her husband have few cash reserves. Did I mention she's a writer? And the bike was what she used every day to commute to some barista job or something she had, right? It was stolen, so she decided to post a little sign. It was 3 feet by 8 feet, on which she wrote the following in bright yellow paint. To the person who stole my bicycle, I hope you need it more than I do. It was $200 used. I needed to get to work and I can't afford another one. Next time, steal a hipster's Peugeot. That's a very expensive bicycle. Or, don't steal. P.S., bring it back. Here's what happened next. A few days later, there was a knock on the door where 2 young African-American men stood with a very small kind of child's mountain bike. They explained they'd seen the sign and they had this bike just laying around and would like to give it to Amanda. She wasn't sure if she could use this small bike for her commute, but she was so touched she accepted the kindness offered to her. Then a couple days after that, the door buzzed and a small middle-aged Latina woman was standing there. She said she didn't live in the neighborhood, but she'd seen the sign and wanted to stop and say that if she found a bike, she would bring it to Amanda. Then she leaned in and gave Amanda a big hug. As soon as Amanda returned to the living room, the buzzer rang again. This time there was a wiry, older white man with a salt and pepper beard standing at the entry who asked about the sign. He explained he was an art dealer and he had taken a picture of the sign and posted it on Instagram. And he was sure from the response he got that he could sell it as a work of art. He said, I was wondering if I could buy the sign from you for $200. That, as is sometimes said, is God showing off. The second story is an anonymous one that was sent to a magazine we love and subscribe to called The Sun. It's a kind of literary magazine with poetry, photographs, essays, memoirs. They have a section called Reader's Right, in which people send in their own stories on different topics. And the topic one month was being broke. A woman identified only as ED from Paradise, California, clearly before that town burned down. I just saw that connection. This woman wrote this letter. Bankruptcy allowed our family to breathe again, but took away instant gratification. If we didn't have the cash in the bank, we didn't buy it. I'd recently promised to make a meal for our family and 2 others, one having just lost their house, a total of 15 people. Pulling this off would require divine intervention. My husband had $5 in his wallet, and I had an old coffee can with $50 in change. I told my husband I'm not going to buy groceries with all this spare change. And I guess you're not going to make a meal, he said. I couldn't let down the family who'd lost their house. So, my purse heavy with coins, I headed to the grocery store to get the ingredients for casseroles, rolls, salad. I was excited when the total came to just under $50. As I counted out nickels and pennies, the woman behind me in line said, "It gets tight toward the end of the month, doesn't it?" She was being kind, but her comment made me want to cry. "I'm making a meal for my friend who lost her house," I told her. "The universe will reward you," she said. I hope so, I thought, already starting to cry. This story makes me cry, so I'm just going to end up bawling up here. I'm trying to keep it together like a good man. In the parking lot, I was putting my key in the car door when tears started to fall. I got in and just let the sobs come. A tap on the window startled me, and I looked up to see the kind woman from the checkout line. I opened my door, and she placed a $20 bill in my hands, and then held it with both of hers. "Thank you," I managed to say. Then she placed another $20 in my palm. I just kept thanking her. Are you tearing up a little yet, folks? I have one more story, and this one was written by someone I met long ago when I studied Aikido at Oberlin College. The well-known sensei, Terry Dobson, came and did a workshop where I got up close and personal with him in Aikido practice. I can tell anyone who's interested a little bit more about that. Years later, I read his story, and I want to share this with you. The train clanked and rattled through the suburbs of Tokyo on a drowsy spring afternoon. Our car was comparatively empty, a few housewives with their kids in tow, some old folks going shopping. I gazed absently at the drab houses and dusty hedgerows. At one station, the doors opened, and suddenly the afternoon quiet was shattered by a man bellowing violent, incomprehensible curses. The man staggered into our car. He wore laborer's clothing, and he was big, drunk, and dirty. Screaming, he swung at a woman holding a baby. The blow sent her spinning into the laps of an elderly couple. It was a miracle that she was unharmed. Terrified, the couple jumped up and scrambled toward the other end of the car. The laborer aimed a kick at the retreating back of the old woman, but missed as she scuttled to safety. This so enraged the drunk that he grabbed the metal pole in the center of the car and tried to wrench it out of its stanchion. I could see one of his hands was cut and bleeding. The train lurched ahead, the passengers frozen with fear. I stood up. I met Terry. He was a big guy. And he says in his story, I was young then, some 20 years ago, and in pretty good shape. I'd been putting in a solid 8 hours of Aikido training nearly every day for the past 3 years. I liked to throw and grapple. I thought I was tough. Trouble was, my martial skill was untested in actual combat. As students of Aikido, we were not allowed to fight. Aikido, my teacher said again and again, is the art of reconciliation. Whoever has the mind to fight has broken his connection with the universe. If you try to dominate people, you are already defeated. We study how to resolve conflict, not how to start it. I listened to his words. I tried hard. I even went so far as to cross the street to avoid the punks who lounged around the train station. My forbearance exalted me. I was both tough and holy. In my heart, though, I wanted an absolutely legitimate opportunity whereby I might save the innocent by destroying the guilty. I'm Captain Justice. This is it, I said to myself, getting to my feet. People are in danger, and if I don't do something fast, they will get hurt. Seeing me stand up, the drunk recognized the chance to focus his rage. Aha! He roared. A foreigner! You need a lesson in Japanese manners! I held on lightly to the commuter strap and gave him a slow look of disgust and dismissal. I planned to take this turkey apart, but he had to make the first move. I wanted him mad, so I pursed my lips and blew him an insolent kiss. All right, he hollered, you're gonna get a lesson. He gathered himself for a rush at me. A split second before he could move, someone shouted, "Hey!" It was ear-splitting. I remember the strangely joyous, lilting quality of it, as though you and a friend had been searching for something and he suddenly stumbled upon it. Hey! I wheeled to my left. The drunk spun to his right. We both stared down at a little old Japanese man. He must have been well into his 70s. This tiny gentleman sitting there immaculate in his kimono. He took no notice of me whatsoever, but he beamed delightedly at the laborer, as though he had a most important, most welcome secret to share. Come here, the old man said, beckoning to the drunk. Come here and talk with me. He waved his hand lightly. The big man followed as if on a string. He planted his feet belligerently in front of the old gentleman and roared above the clacking wheels. Why the hell should I talk to you? The drunk now had his back to me. If he moved so much as a millimeter, I'd drop him in his socks. The old man continued to beam at the laborer. What you been drinking? He asked, his eyes sparkling with interest. I've been drinking sake, the laborer bellowed back, and it's none of your business. Bits of his spittle spattered the old man. Oh, that's wonderful, the old man said. Absolutely wonderful. You see, I love sake too. Every night, me and my wife, she's 76, you know, we warm up a little bottle of sake. and we take it out into the garden, and we sit on an old wooden bench. We watch the sun go down, and we look to see how our persimmon tree is doing. My great-grandfather planted that tree, and we worry about whether it will recover from those ice storms we had last winter. Our tree has done better than we expected, especially when you consider the poor quality of the soil. It is so gratifying to watch when we take our sake and go out to enjoy the evening, even when it rains. He looked at the laborer, eyes twinkling. As he struggled to follow the old man's conversation, can you just see that? Just like him going, what? The drunk's face began to soften. His fists slowly unclenched. Yeah, he said, I love persimmons too. His voice trailed off. Yes, said the old man, smiling. And I'm sure you have a wonderful wife too. No, replied the laborer, my wife died. Very gently, swaying with the motion of the train, the big man began to sob. I don't got no wife. I don't got no home. I don't got no job. I'm so ashamed of myself. Tears rolled down his cheeks. A spasm of despair rippled through his body. Now it was my turn. Standing there in my well-scrubbed youthful innocence, my make this world safe for democracy righteousness, I suddenly felt dirtier than he was. Then the train arrived at my stop. As the doors opened, I heard the old man cluck sympathetically. My, he said, that is a difficult predicament indeed. Sit down here and tell me about it. I turned my head for one last look. The laborer was sprawled in the seat, his head on the old man's lap. The old man was softly stroking the filthy, matted hair. As the train pulled away, I sat down on a bench. What I had wanted to do with muscle had been accomplished with kind words. I had just seen Aikido tried in combat, and the essence of it was love. I would have to practice with an entirely new spirit. It would be a long time before I could speak about the resolution of conflict. May we take these inspiring stories into our practice of the art of kindness and healing and love. The opportunities to do this will not always be with folks we judge as admirable, with people we naturally take a shine to, with souls whose outer coverings look like our own. May we, despite all that, rise to the challenge. Take off the uniforms of team vengeance, team selfishness, team out of my way USOB. May we instead together support each other in suiting up today and every day for team kindness.
Thank you.
You know, I did see some musicians I love do exactly this. They started a song,
I need this.
and the fellow who's accompanying the main person said, "Whoops, I'm in the wrong key." Let me be a little kinder, let me be a little blinder to the faults of those about me. Let me praise a little more. Let me be when I'm weary, just a little bit more cheery. Think a little more of others and a little less of me. Let me be a little braver when temptation bids me waver. Let me try a little harder to be all that I can be. Let me be a little weaker with a brother that is weaker. Let me think more of my neighbor and a little less of me. Let me be when I'm weary, just a little bit more cheery. Let me serve a little better those that I am striving for. Let me be a little meeker with a sister that is weaker. Think a little more of others and a little less of me. Think a little more of others and a little less of me.
Gotta fix the angle of this.
Oh, right. I could have done that for you.
No, you're fine. I just like your choice of words. Thank you. So now it's time for our offertory. And as you are preparing your tithes and offerings today, think about how blessed you are. And as you're writing your check or giving your gift, send your blessings out.
I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed.
Together we'll bless this.
I give willingly, joyfully, and lovingly, knowing that God is the constant source of my supply. I give with graciousness and receive with gratitude.
Thank you. So it is. Now it's time for the good news. Does anybody have any good news today? Well, I guess the good news is that everybody's doing well.
Yep.
Thank you. Now we'll stand and sing a peace song.
Follow Dougie.
Just wait for the circle to form. Okay. Let our chaplain get here. Here we go.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it be
my joyous vow to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us.